that 6.8% that you laid out as the estimate?
Absolutely. In fact, I would say that now I'm willing to say that the risk is that the number is on the higher side of my range rather than towards the midpoint or the lower end of my range.
Okay, so the higher end of the range very much now
looks within grasp.
Within grasp, and that's the upshot of what has been delivered. Expenditure Secretary, let me put the numbers into perspective. The FY25 expenditure at 48.21 lakh crore rupees, RE of 47.16 lakh crore rupees, and the BE of FY26 at 50.65 lakhs. So that's where you've managed to pull out that cushion as far as the personal income tax reductions are concerned, isn't it?
So as far as the BE for the next year is concerned, on an aggregate basis, we are going around 7% more than the RE for this year. But then we have still prioritized capital expenditure. If you take the aggregate capital expenditure both on what is done directly by the central government as well as the grants for capex which are usually given to the state governments, we are having a 17% increase. So within the expenditure, even though the expenditure increase is only 7%, 17% increase is on the capex side.
On the capex side, there was, the expectation, and I discussed it with the CA last night as well, of 20-25% growth in capex. I want to ask both of you that question, even though you said on an aggregate basis the number is significantly higher at about 15 to 16%. But is it now fair to assume that, this 10% kind of growth number is what we should work with, what we should assume? I'll start by asking you, CA.
No, I don't think there is any such set formula here. It depends on the context. So I think, as we discussed yesterday, I think the capex numbers do have to grow because there is a requirement of public sector. I said some of it could happen in the public-private partnership mode as well. In fact, the FM announced in her budget speech that there will be a greater reliance on PPP mode as well. Yeah. So I don't think we are working on a set formula of a steady 10% increase every year. It depends on the economic context and the requirements.
On the capex side, the expectation is that there will now be a pickup on account of all the sort of pause that was on account of the elections. What's your own expectation on that?
That's correct. For example, last year we have done 9.49 lakh crores on the capital expenditure, just pure capital expenditure by the central government. The first 3 months, because of the election and other reasons, the capex was low. In fact, it's also a part of the economic survey where they compare what was done in the first few months as compared to what is done. So now we have caught up, and in fact, if you compare April to January end, for the figures that we have so far, we have surpassed the capital expenditure of last year by around 30,000 crores. So last year we did 9.49 by March end, so we should easily cross it, and the figure of 10.12, which is by the way the highest ever capital expenditure that the central government has ever done, is easily achievable.
It's achievable. Okay, and you believe that we'll get there by the end of the fiscal year?
By 31st March we should be there, or we might even exceed it a little bit.
Even exceed it a little bit. Okay, that's good to hear. CBDT Chairman, let me come to you now, sir, and understand the big cut that's coming on the personal income tax side. Do you believe that with these measures that have been announced today, the sun will finally set on the old tax regime? Do you believe that this is enough sweetener to move everyone to the new tax regime?
Yes, there's definitely a nudge to move to the new tax regime. There are two options. Both the options are available to the taxpayer. One is without deductions and the other is with deductions. We are moving to a regime where the deductions and the exemptions were moving away from there. And we are trying to put in place a simplified tax structure which actually enables determination of income in a straight way rather than actually going in through deductions and all. So that is basically a nudge to the taxpayer also to move to the new tax regime. And in fact, people have responded even in the past. 74% people have already come to the new tax regime.
Do you believe that this will move 74 to 100%?
Well, we would welcome that. We'll definitely welcome that.
Okay. Let me come to you, CBIC Chief. Today, we've also got the GST collection number coming in, and a 12% increase, if I remember correctly, year on year, as far as the monthly collections go. What is the expected run rate now? 1.96 lakh crore rupees is what we've been able to do. What is the expected run rate from here on?
So far, GST collections are concerned, till December, from April to December, the GST revenue collection for the center was increasing at the rate of 10.2%, whereas the ask rate was 10.9%. So this month revenue collection at 12.3% growth on all India basis has given us confidence that we will achieve the target which has been set for GST revenue collection for the center.
On the indirect tax side, sir, there has been, some shortfall in terms of what has been targeted. Do you believe you will be able to meet that, match that, cover it up by the end of the financial year?
In the revised estimates, there is slight downward revision for indirect taxes, and it has been revised from 16.19 lakh crores to 16.02 lakh crores. And that revision is mainly on account of the revenue from the customs duties and central excise duties. So with this growth in GST revenue collection, because in the last quarter, the revenue collection from GST is normally higher compared to Q1, Q2, Q3. So that revenue collection is giving us the confidence that we'll achieve that asking rate of 10.9%. And overall, the ask rate for indirect tax collection is 7.1%. So we are likely to achieve the revised estimates for revenue collection for indirect taxes.
For indirect taxes. Let me come to both of you now and talk about what the thrust of the budget is also on a new center-state compact in many ways. And CA, let me start by asking you about that. Whether it is these loans that the center has guaranteed, or it is sort of bringing this public-private partnership along with the center and states on things like tourism and so on and so forth. How do you see this panning out, and what could it mean when it is finally operationalized in terms of growth?
I mean, what it means is that I think there will be a lot of good practices from multiple states that will get disseminated and diffused, and it will also open up and widen the areas of cooperation across well beyond the very sectors that are talked about. I think it will only pave the way for a faster implementation of many of the government projects, including in other areas. So I think this is exactly what is needed, because much of the low-hanging fruits with respect to many of the policy actions at the union government level have been plucked. So now much more needs to be done in terms of collaboration at lower levels of the bureaucracy between union and states, and the budget has taken very important steps in that regard.
On some of the other schemes that were announced, the agriculture scheme, a much more holistic view being taken there as far as this Dhan Dhanya scheme is concerned, or even putting more money into the scheme for stalled housing and so on and so forth. Again, the multiplier impact of some of these schemes, Mr. Govind.
As far as if there are stalled projects, or even, for example, stalled capital projects for which we give some money from the Government of India, if they are completed, obviously the multiplier effect will come. So multiplier effect generally comes when the project is completed and starts giving benefits. So I think in that sense, the states have a major role. In this year's budget, 25.60 lakh crores is to go from central government under various heads to the states. That includes devolution also. In fact, if you see, the central government budget is increasing by around 7% RE compared to the next year's BE, whereas the money which is going to the state government as per the budget is going to increase by 11%. So there is a higher proportion of money which is going to go to the state government, and state government support and cooperation is very vital to have the growth prospects up.
CBDT Chairman, let me ask you about the tax bill which will be taken to Parliament, and the Finance Minister made it clear that it will be sent to the Standing Committee, will be tabled in Parliament next week. Now, that lays out the roadmap as far as simplification is concerned, and many tax experts were commenting that they may be out of a job at the end of that if that kind of simplification is in fact taken forward, but simplification seems to be the thrust, not so much rationalization at this point in time.
You see, rationalization has happened over a period of time. Now, this Income Tax Act is a 1961 act, and over a period of time, a lot of redundancies have crept in. Some provisions have become obsolete also, and there are some repetitive provisions that are there in the act. Plus, the language in the act is also a bit convoluted, and at times the normal taxpayer finds it difficult to actually go through that language. So the attempt now is to simplify the language and to make it easy for the taxpayer to understand the provisions of law. So, complexities in the transactions would happen. It would remain, but then the language would be simple. The way we would express the provisions in the law, that would be simplified. You see, I would give you one perspective that even this time, when we have brought out these amendments in the bill, simultaneously we have also issued frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
Right. So that is an attempt to actually explain to people what is the intent behind the provisions and the amendments. So that's one way of simplification. So the same logic and philosophy we are actually adopting here when we are bringing this.
There was a fair degree of nervousness on whether there would be any changes as far as the capital gains tax regime was concerned, and we'd already seen that hike coming in last year. The expectation was that perhaps you would leave it as is, or maybe provide a little bit of relief, or certainly provide relief on the STT side, which has seen a significantly higher collection over your target, and you've set an even stiffer target for STT.
Yeah, so we have provided, you see, STT, of course, the collections have been encouraging, and we have kept it at that. We have not disturbed it because now we were actually moving towards this tax slab sort of relaxation. And STT is as per our expectations, so we have kept it like that.
Let's talk about the changes on the indirect tax side. The tariff changes that have come in, the finance minister had said that this is in continuation to the announcements that came in last budget as well. If you can explain to us where this leaves things, and also in light of the threat of the Trump administration invoking tariffs, including on countries like India, have not been specified yet. How prepared, how ready are we?
On this, the objective was to simplify the tariff rate structure. Secondly, to provide the effectiveness to the Indian industry to remain competitive. Third was to provide sector-specific higher protection for a short duration. And fourthly, it was for ease of doing business. Towards that, from the earlier rate of 15, it has been reduced by 7 rates, and now the total rates which are there in the tariff are only 8. So the rates which have been removed are 25%, 30%, 35%, 40%, 100%, 125%, and 150%. So India was mentioned is having a very high tariff rates. So those high tariff rates have been now removed, and now the rates which are remaining are 0, 2.5%, 5%, 7.5%, 10%, 15%, 20%, and then 70%. And the logic behind keeping these rates is that from 0 to 10%, it is a graded structure, and items have been placed in this graded structure in a manner that raw materials are generally at 0% or 2.5%. The goods after these raw materials are processed, and in intermediate stage, those are at 5 and 7.5%. Capital goods have been kept at 7.5%, finished goods at 10%. Apart from that, on 15% and 20%, mostly items are of such nature which are either covered under PMP scheme or PLI scheme. And apart from that, there are certain items where there were surge of imports. Those items have been kept at these rates. So the items which were at higher rates now have been brought down to the lower rates, but in most of the cases, effective rate of duty has been kept unchanged by imposing AIDC on certain items wherever it was felt that duty can be decreased without impacting the industry. There the rates have actually been lowered. Apart from that exercise, another thing which has been done is that items which were subject to cess as well as surcharge, there the surcharge has been exempted. There are 82 such tariff lines where the surcharge has been exempted. In addition to that, there were effective rates unconditionally. Those have been now brought in the tariff. And there are 51 such tariff lines where the effective rates have now been tariffized. So it is easier to refer to the effective rate because it is there in the tariff. So with these objectives, this exercise has been conducted, and so it will bring a lot of simplification in the tariff structure, and the average rate, average customs duty rate has now come down from 11.65% to 10.66%.
Okay.
And now it is nearer to the rates in ASEAN countries.
Okay.
But this is in respect of industrial goods. We have not done this exercise in case of agriculture goods and textiles.
Okay, but coming back to my question on how prepared we are for the eventuality of tariffs being administered by the Trump regime. They've talked about pharmaceuticals even when we talk about the threat of tariffs on India. How ready are we?
So far, these are just certain statements have been made, but presently there is no such tariff which is being imposed on the Indian exports. So as the things will evolve, measures will be taken accordingly.
But see, on that, to cope with the possibility, and today is the first day when the tariffs come in on Mexico and Canada, but to prepare for that, how ready are we today? And on the issue of overcapacity and dumping in India, the need for safeguard duties and so on and so forth, the steel sector has been asking for that. This matter is under active consideration. Do you believe that there is a case to be made across different other sectors as well?
I think it will be difficult for me to comment on it because these are all sector-specific situations, and different administrative ministries in collaboration with the Commerce Ministry will have to decide on how appropriate, when, how much and for how long, etc. So it will be not appropriate for me to comment on that.
But on the tariff possibility and what that could mean for India if the US
Look, I think it's speculative. Let's wait and see whether, because after all, in general, exports as a percentage of GDP in India has been rising, but of that, exports to the United States comprise of both goods and services. So we need to wait and see which are the areas that attract tariff, if at all they do, and how to prepare for it. I think it is these are all something that we need to approach carefully rather than discussing them in public.
No, fair enough. I understand that, and we don't even have the details at this point in time. But let's now address GST. Of course, that's not a matter for the budget, but since we have moved on personal income tax and provided relief on personal income tax, the hope is that we move as far as rationalization on GST is concerned as well. The GOM has been set up. It's been looking at this matter. The matter was deferred at the last GST Council meeting. What should we realistically expect, Mr. Agarwal?
In GST, the exercise is done in a completely different environment. In customs side, it is the union government which has to do this exercise. In GST side, basically the exercise is done by a GOM has been set up, and GOM has to present the report to GST Council. Their union as well as states are part of that council, and issues are deliberated, and then decisions are taken, recommendations are made, and then the rates are notified. So it's altogether a different exercise, but GOM is going into all the aspects. They are very comprehensively looking into the tax slabs, how the items have been placed on those tax slabs, what is to be done to remove the classification disputes. So all those aspects, including the revenue, because revenue is very important for the states as well as for union. So all these aspects are being looked into by the GOM. And once they are ready with their report, it will be presented before the next GST Council or the Council.
Do we have a date yet for the next GST Council meeting?
Not yet.
Not yet, but that I would imagine that once the elections are out of the way, at least in Delhi, we will perhaps have more clarity on that. But at the end of all of this, and the Finance Minister in her speech and then of course in her briefing also made the point that the tax cuts will impact everybody and not just those who fall under the 12 lakh rupee bracket. What does this mean now, sir? And I was asking the CA that question as well, but what does the data tell you in terms of the implications and the impact that it's likely to have?
See, the changes that we have made in the tax slab, that is applicable to all the taxpayers, non-corporate taxpayers. So therefore, this would, while you calculate the tax liability of a person, be it income of 12 lakhs or 24 lakhs or even more, these tax slabs would be applicable. Now, as against earlier tax slab of 0 to 3%, zero rate of tax, and then 3 to 7, 5%, and so on and so forth. Now, in general, the tax has changed, and the slabs are 0 to 4% is 0, 4 to 8 lakhs is 5 lakhs, and so on. And as a result of that, a person, taxpayer, with the income of 12 lakhs, of course, otherwise he would have the new tax slabs paid a tax of 60,000, but through rebate, the tax liability has been brought to 0. Similarly, if we talk about a person having a total income of 24 lakhs, the net benefit that the person would get is of 1,10,000. And this would be applicable for all the income above 24 lakhs. So therefore, all the taxpayers across the board, they stand to gain benefit out of this. And the total, implication of this entire exercise would be about 1 lakh crores.
Right.
So this is what this amount would be, of course, available to the people to take a call as to
put back into the economy through
Yes.
either spending on it or savings and investments.
Yes, yes.
So that is what we'll have to see. Mr. Govil, let me ask you, on the back of the many announcements that have come in, and several are works in progress. For instance, on the deregulation front, the expert committee will provide its recommendations, and that process is expected to take about a year or so. There are many others on the export front, for instance, as well, that is a work in progress. What are the realistic timelines, especially on the export front? Because it is a challenging environment that we are dealing with that we should realistically expect.
On the export front, I think the Ministry of Commerce has already done a significant amount of groundwork, and we hope that they will be ready soon to make a comprehensive proposal and bring it before the authorities for approval. So I think over the last 5-6 months they have been working on it. So I think they should be ready with it pretty soon.
On the defense capex side, I think there is some disappointment that the defense capex is not as or is not proportional to what the needs are at this point in time. Would you have a comment on that? Because that's, I think, only up 1.8%, under 2% at this point.
So the way we look at it is relating to the requirement of the sector. Now, defense has a peculiar procurement structure. Most of the expenditure on defense happens in large-scale procurements or procurements of expensive equipment. And that procurement process is lumpy. Sometimes you might have a lot of orders being given, sometimes there is a lull. So it is hard to make an accurate estimate year by year and to increase it by a certain percentages every year. For example, this year we expect, and the RE figures will show that the defense may not be able to completely utilize the budget estimate that they had given, so the RE is less than the B. But the next year we have, the proposals will show, the next year's B is more than the B for this year. So we hope that it will pick up next year.
Okay, so let me end by asking each one of you and you can now speak much more freely than you could yesterday, CA. So let me ask you, for you, what you believe is the big headline from Budget 2025 that you would like people to focus on?
It's putting spending power back in the hands of the people.
Putting spending power back in the hands of the people. Mr. Govil?
Apart from that, fiscal prudence.
Fiscal prudence. Mr. Agarwal?
The steps which have been taken for doing ease of business and trade facilitation.
Okay. Mr. Agarwal again.
So it is one, trust first, the basic philosophy of trust first that guides the budget direct tax proposals, which reflects from the reduction or change in the tax slabs, as also affording the taxpayer a facility of filing an updated return. So that is another aspect. So there are then rate rationalization in TDS and TCS. So trust first is the theme, basic theme, which guides the direct tax.
Yes, and we have seen the TCS and TDS simplifications and rationalization coming in as well. But the headline, if I could pull it out from these gentlemen, is that they feel very confident of being able to achieve the higher end of the estimate that was put down by the Chief Economic Advisor in the economic survey as far as growth is concerned at 6.8%. It's within grasp. In his words, it's within grasp. Mr. Nageshwar, Mr. Govil, Mr. Agarwal, many thanks for joining us here on CNBC-TV18 on the Budget Headquarters. The budget makers will continue. Don't go anywhere. We're back in a moment with more.
Speaker, I present the budget for 25-26. This budget continues our government's efforts to A. Accelerate growth, B. Secure inclusive development, C. Invigorate private sector investments, D. Uplift household sentiments, and E. Enhance spending power of India's rising middle class. Together, we embark on a journey to unlock our nation's tremendous potential for greater prosperity and global positioning under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. As we complete the first quarter of the 21st century, continuing geopolitical headwinds suggest lower global economic growth over the medium term. However, our aspiration for a Vikasit Bharat inspires us, and the transformative work we have done during our government's first 2 terms guides us to march forward resolutely. Our economy is the fastest growing among all major economies. Our development track record for the past 10 years and structural reforms have drawn global attention. Confidence in India's capability and potential has only grown in this period. We see the next 5 years as a unique opportunity to realize Sabka Vikas, stimulating balanced growth of all regions. The great Telugu poet and playwright Gurujada Apparao had said, "Deshamante matti kadoy, deshamante manushuloy," meaning a country is not just its soil, a country is its people. In line with this, for us, Vikasit Bharat encompasses zero poverty, 100% quality good school education, access to high quality, affordable and comprehensive health care, 100% skilled labor with meaningful employment, 70% women in economic activities, and farmers making our country the food basket of the world. In this budget, the proposed development measures span 10 broad areas, focusing on Garib, youth, Annadata, and Nari, spurring agricultural growth and productivity, building rural prosperity and resilience, taking everyone together on an inclusive growth path, boosting manufacturing and furthering Make in India, supporting MSMEs, enabling employment-led development, investing in people, economy, and innovation, securing energy supplies, promoting exports, and nurturing innovation. For this journey of development, our 4 powerful engines are agriculture, MSME, investments, and exports. The fuel, our reforms, our guiding spirit, inclusivity, and the destination, Vikasit Bharat. This budget aims to initiate transformation.
CNBC-TV18, let me start by asking you for the overarching theme of the budget, which seems to focus on consumption, capex, and consolidation. How do you believe the budget is going to change the needle in the attempt to amplify the growth momentum?
This is a phenomenally great budget. The way it has been balanced, we have the CAPEX program, the entire CAPEX program is intact, it's going steady. We have a lot of focus on deregulation. There is huge focus on manufacturing and stimulating demand. I mean, practically everything that is required in a good budget. It's a dream budget in my opinion. And I thank Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Finance Minister for bringing out this such a comprehensive budget where we are looking at a 4.4% fiscal deficit, where most of the rich world today is running fiscal deficits significantly higher than this, and still we have practically every sector covered and a very consistent investment program going on. So I think this is a very balanced, very good budget. It's in a sense, it's a dream budget.
Yes, that certainly is the feedback that's coming in from many quarters, Mr. Vaishnav. But let's talk a little bit about railways. Railway capex coming in at 2.64 lakh crore rupees. I also want to understand from you if you can give us some color on the railway internals in terms of the operating ratio as well as the spending plans for the year ahead.
Absolutely. 2,52,000 crore rupees budgetary support. And at the PPP investments, 2,64,000 crore rupees is the total capital allocation in the budget. And this is very important because the momentum which is there in railways, in the last 10 years, our Prime Minister himself has focused so much on railways, and changing the entire infrastructure, getting new technologies, getting new passenger amenities, new types of trains. Everything is on the cards, and this budget allocation gives us a huge kind of help in maintaining that momentum. Total about 4,60,000 crore rupees worth projects have been included in the budget, which includes new lines, doubling, gauge conversion, completing the electrification, which is almost reaching 97% now. So in a sense, practically every aspect of railway will be benefited by this. I'll give 5 specific points here. One, will be manufacturing about 100 new Amrit Bharat trains, which are all non-air conditioned, practically for the low income category of families. Then we'll be manufacturing 50 Namo Bharat trains, which are for the short distance, roughly 250 kilometer distance, cities which are located 250 kilometers away. So basically having a shuttle kind of connect between them. Then we'll be manufacturing about 200 new Vande Bharat trains, including sleeper as well as the chair car versions, and 1,000 new flyovers and underpasses. And the allocation on safety will increase from 1,14,000 crore. It will go up to 1,16,000 crore. And we'll also be achieving 3 major milestones in the coming months. First is we'll be crossing 1.6 billion tons of cargo. Second, we'll be completing 100% electrification. And third, we'll be crossing 3 lakh crore revenue benchmark. So these are very major important milestones that we are going to cover in the coming months.
Well, certainly important milestones that you've highlighted. 3 lakh crores in revenue, 100% electrification target you hope to achieve as well. But just on the operating ratio as well, Mr. Vaishnav, if you can leave us with that number too before I move on to the other sectors.
Absolutely. See, the costs we have, the cost of salary, wages, the cost of pension, the cost of energy, the cost of maintenance, the entire cost we are able to meet from the revenue that the railways is earning, because the volume has increased significantly. If you look at 10 years ago, the loading used to be just about 1 billion tons. Now it is 1.5 billion plus, and this year we'll be crossing 1.6 billion tons. Same is the case of passengers increasing steadily. So combine that along with bringing the cost efficiencies by reducing diesel consumption, increasing electrical traction, and also having better maintenance so that the losses during transportation are reduced. Now we are able to meet all the costs, and this operating ratio now is in the range of 98 to 98.5, in that range. So this is very healthy, and despite not increasing any fares and maintaining that passenger subsidy of about 58,000 crore rupees, while maintaining that, we are able to meet the entire expenditure, which is very good.
Okay, let me then ask you about the other sectors that you look after as well, Mr. Vaishnav. The component PLI scheme, the hope was that it would be coming in the budget, but you had told me when we spoke a short while ago in Davos that the consultation process is still on, so the window is still open on that. Could you confirm that, sir?
See, 3 major reforms have been announced which are going to directly have a positive impact on the component manufacturing ecosystem, or rather the entire electronics and semiconductor manufacturing ecosystem. First is the rationalization of custom duties. Second is the very nuanced announcement about permanent establishment in the taxation regime. Third is about the warehousing for a variety of inputs which go into electronics manufacturing. So combine these 3 with the thing that we are already working with the industry. I think electronics manufacturing, which right now is, we are doing laptops, we are doing servers, we are doing mobile phones, audio equipment, we are doing many medical equipment. All that is going to, I would say in the coming years, it's going to double or even treble in the coming years, and the employment generation is huge. Even just in electronics and mobile manufacturing, we have close to 2.5 million people employed. That will double in the coming years. So this is a very good boost, and combine and look at that from the perspective of having a mission for manufacturing. A mission for manufacturing, which Honorable Finance Minister has announced today, is very comprehensive. It looks at your labor, looks at your capital requirement, your land requirement, all the it's a 360-degree assessment of the entire manufacturing sector, and whatever is required, infra, capital, rating, factoring, discounts, everything has been included in that package.
So, Mr. Vaishnav, just a follow-up question on that, because the existing PLI scheme for electronics, the sun sets in 25-26, if I remember correctly. Is there a possibility or a likelihood of that being extended as well, or do you believe that that has served its purpose?
Listen, the industry is looking more at components now. At this point of time, the industry's focus is on deepening the value chain, because we got very good traction on manufacturing the finished goods. Now the time has come to focus a lot on getting the components and the modules and sub-modules into our country, and that's where the focus is. The active components are part of the semiconductor program, and passive components are part of the component program that we are working. That's where the industry is at this point of time focused on. And also, of course, on design. Industry is also focused a lot on design capabilities. Yeah.
One of the other announcements that came in from the finance minister had to do with that 500 crore rupee outlay on a center of excellence for AI, Mr. Vaishnav, and of course that's again something that you're spearheading, the government's AI mission. Do you believe that that is going to be enough? Take me through operationalizing this plan as far as the centers of excellence is concerned.
The total AI mission allocation is 10,000 crore rupees. And there are 7 big pillars of this, very important pillars. First and foremost, where we have achieved very good success, is getting the common compute facility for all our researchers, academicians, startups. 18,000 GPUs have been empaneled, and out of that 10,000 are already available and installed. And a very, very decent price has come because of the very transparent process by which the private sector investors were empaneled. So I think that's a very important thing. Now we are working on the foundational model as well as the applications, and as you must have seen in a few days ago, we announced that 18 applications have already been approved as a part of it. So this today's announcement of having the Center of Excellence is very, very important, because AI will be driven by research. It will be driven by getting new algorithms, getting better efficiency in the algorithms, making sure that power consumption is reduced, making sure that accuracy at a lower cost can be achieved. So that's why the announcement of Center of Excellence, and this will be the third, so is going to be very important, because research is going to drive the innovation in the coming days.
Final question, Mr. Vaishnav, before I let you go. And you did give us an indication of how we intend to use DeepSeek, and you said that you would like it to be hosted on Indian servers. Explain to me what the thinking is on this front as we move forward.
See, we are, at this point of time, all the experts are evaluating the implications on privacy, the implications on security, so that and it's a very technical subject. Most of the work is being done by the technical experts, and as and when they give their final opinion, we'll be able to take the steps. One of the things that the experts have advised is that we should install DeepSeek on an Indian server, so that the data privacy concerns can be addressed properly, and that is what we have started already. That process we have started. And as and when the experts advise us further on this, we'll take further steps.
Okay. All right, Mr. Vaishnav, always a pleasure. Appreciate you joining us here to give us a very detailed understanding of where things currently stand, not just for the railway capex plan, but also for the government's AI mission, and of course for the electronic and the component scheme that is currently being worked on. Always a pleasure. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV18. That's Minister Ashwini Vaishnav here joining us on the CNBC TV18 budget headquarters. There's a lot more coming up. We're back in a moment.
Speaker, I present the budget for 25-26. This budget continues our government's efforts to A. Accelerate growth, B. Secure inclusive development, C. Invigorate private sector investments, D. Uplift household sentiments, and E. enhance spending power of India's rising middle class. Together, we embark on a journey to unlock our nation's tremendous potential for greater prosperity and global positioning under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. As we complete the first quarter of the 21st century, continuing geopolitical headwinds suggest lower global economic growth over the medium term. However, our aspiration for a Vikasit Bharat inspires us, and the transformative work we have done during our government's first 2 terms guides us to march forward resolutely. Our economy is the fastest growing among all major economies. Our development track record for the past 10 years and structural reforms have drawn global attention. Confidence in India's capability and potential has only grown in this period. We see the next 5 years as a unique opportunity to realize Sabka Vikas, stimulating balanced growth of all regions. The great Telugu poet and playwright Gurujada Apparao had said, "Deshamante matti kadoy, deshamante manushuloy," meaning a country is not just its soil, a country is its people. In line with this, for us, Vikasit Bharat encompasses zero poverty, 100% quality good school education, access to high quality, affordable and comprehensive health care, 100% skilled labor with meaningful employment, 70% women in economic activities, and farmers making our country the food basket of the world. In this budget, the proposed development measures span 10 broad areas, focusing on Garib, youth, Annadata, and Nari, spurring agricultural growth and productivity, building rural prosperity and
Our continuing coverage here, analyzing Budget 2025 at the CNBC-TV18 Budget Headquarters continues. It's been a long day, but it's been an even longer month for the 2 gentlemen who are here with me, the Finance Secretary Tuhin Kanta Pandey, as well as the new DPAM Secretary, Mr. Arunish Chawla. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. I think everyone's struggling to find the devil in the fine print this time around. Last budget, there was the indexation issue, but so far it seems to have been a clean list of announcements that's coming from the finance minister. But if I could address one of the disappointments, to put it mildly, as far as the capex issue is concerned, and I'll quote a tweet to you. The key issue in the budget is the near zero allocation for infra over the last year, 11.2 lakh or over 11.1. Is this a reset of national economic strategy that large outlays in infra will no longer be the pump primer of the economy? Will this be the hitherto stated strategy? Mr. Pandey.
Well, I think that's not the way we should look at it, because if you really look at it, the capex directly, and then first of all, we have to understand the budget. There are 2 kinds of capex. One is the capex per se directly by the central government.
Yeah.
The secondly is the capex which goes from the central government, first as a grant, as a revenue expenditure, and then it goes into for creation of assets at the hand of the states. So therefore, in the budget at a glance, in the statement itself, you have something called grant in creation of capital assets.
Right.
And this has been there for many years. And this number is actually 15.48 lakh crores. It's about 15.6 lakh crores. So it's not really 11 lakh crores that we are talking about.
So you're saying that we should not see it as 11.1 to 11.21. We should see it as 11.1 to the allocation that's been apportioned for states as well.
Exactly. Why it's important? Because if you really see, there is a 10% growth on the RE numbers over, in this BE for the capex.
Right.
But if you really count the two, it is 17% growth because a lot of money we are sending it in the capex through
To
the states.
states.
So therefore, if you really don't count them, you really don't get to know exactly. And those numbers are very much visible in the budget itself.
So there's no change as far as the capex heavy lifting that the government attempted to do in the last few years. There's no change in that strategy is the question.
The capex continues. All I'm saying is that it may not be that we are having that 30% increment at one time and so on. But the capex continues, and our effort will be on implementation of capex.
Okay, let me now address the issue as far as the personal income tax cut is concerned. And I think everyone acknowledges that this was not what was expected. This is much better than what the street was expecting, what people were expecting, which was some relief. Now, what do you believe this could potentially do, and how soon could it provide that growth momentum to the economy?
Well, when it comes to the economy, we have to see is who is making investments, who is making savings, who is doing consumption. So therefore, we have in the broad economy, there are three characters. One is the households, the second is the private sector, corporate sector, the third is the government. Now, everyone, does saving, everyone does an investment. And put together, it is a saving, and put together is an investment. Now, compositionally, what we are doing is we are shifting some of the money which the government would have got had we continued with the old rates into the hands of the people. And all that it will do, it will not only spur consumption, it can also have impact on savings or investments. You and me, when you get more money, you may choose to consume, you may choose to save, or you may choose to invest. If you choose to save, somebody else is investing it on your behalf.
Right.
If you choose to invest directly in a house or something, you are the investor directly.
Yeah.
And if you choose to consume, you are basically spurring the demand for several others when you will propel investments by them.
Right.
So in a way, we are putting that money, and that money is going to come back to the economy anyways.
So what could be the impact of that? And again, there are estimates being made by former colleagues of yours in terms of the multiplier impact on growth. Do you believe that this 10.8% nominal growth number, you could perhaps do better?
Well, I would say that, it will actually, because we are giving a choice to the people in a manner, I think those choices will be duly, wisely done by the people, and therefore economy will stand to benefit.
So you're not sticking your neck out and 6.8%. The CA says now within grasp. The DA says looks very doable. Do you believe that you could perhaps better it?
Well, I think we are looking up. If you really see, we have there was a prediction that in the second half it will look up. See, we are also facing a lot of global headwinds. So it's not that the environment that we are right now in is extremely favorable. And so our economy, even though as it's one of the fastest growing economy among the large economies in the world, it is also facing global headwinds. So we do not know exactly how it's going to pan out. But we are putting a best foot forward in trying to optimize growth, trying to find out, as FM said, reforms as a fuel. As FM said, engines, 4 engines. The engines are very broad-based. Agriculture, MSME, investment. And investment is not merely investment in physical infrastructure, in people, as well as economy and exports. So therefore, I think the overall and the inclusivity which that comes in, and plus this income tax relief, if you really take it, it is a balanced view. It's not binary that it is capex versus this. I think it is basically a balanced view to propel the economy and also reform as a fuel.
Do you believe that 75% that is moved to the new tax regime, that number will go up significantly on the back of the measures that you've announced?
Surely. Maybe they will reach 100%.
Maybe they'll reach 100% and the sun will finally set on the old tax regime. You believe that?
Well, the choice is there, but if the people don't find it attractive enough, they will move. Let them make a choice.
Let them make a choice. So, Mr. Chawla, let's address the disinvestment agenda. 47,000 crore rupees, that is what the budget has put down as the disinvestment target. There's no point talking about targets because, we've not really realistically achieved the disinvestment targets that have been set out. So let me ask you what the disinvestment calendar looks like, starting with IDBI Bank, because that has moved much further along than anything else. Where are we on that today, sir?
Thank you. I'll first clarify that there is no fixed disinvestment target. We have moved on to a more comprehensive asset management approach, where our aim is to optimize value, not just for the government, which is the promoter of enterprises, but millions of minority shareholders, ordinary investors who have reposed their faith in us. As part of our strategy, we will balance between a consistent dividend policy and a calibrated asset monetization strategy. Along with this, we have built in strict performance benchmarks for the CPSEs, along with CapEx targets. As Finance Secretary mentioned, a large part of the CapEx actually comes from public enterprises.
Yes.
And an effective communication strategy. But that does not mean that I can reveal market-sensitive information.
On the one that's already public, which is IDBI Bank, where do things stand?
Good. So IDBI, that is on track, and I will not give precise details at the moment, but I can assure you it's on track, and in due course, you will hear it.
Okay, in due course, meaning obviously nothing in this financial year, so it moves to the next financial year as far as the bids are concerned.
No comments.
No comments on that. Let me ask you this, sir. You've spent a large part of the last many years looking at disinvestment. Now, what should we realistically expect in terms of the appetite for disinvestment? And also, how should we read the moves that have been seen recently with the government actually infusing capital into SIC PSUs, whether it's RINL or MTNL and so on and so forth? What should we read into the message the government is sending out on disinvestment?
No, I think this, so far as the MTNL is concerned, it was never on the disinvestment list. And it was because it was decided that at least one strategic, because of the strategic nature of the BSNL MTL was retained as a part of the policy. So far as the RINL is concerned, you know that as a going concern, the company has been in a very bad state. So as a going concern, we have to look at it, and now the whole analysis has been done, a thing has been done, because in any case, that's an ongoing concern issue. But even on the IDBI, I mean, I would hazard a guess, the things are there, the due diligence process is on. And
but it's been on for years.
No,
sir.
I mean, there was an issue because there was an RBI process that had taken a lot of time, and then finally the RBI cleared it. We told the market, told the media that, the due diligence process is now on after the fit and proper.
Right.
And I think very soon the financial bids will come, and following which, the result will be out. I mean, the thing.
So you're
will
saying
take
very
place.
soon the financial bids? Can you give us a more specific timeline?
I would say, I mean, of course, Arunesh would be in a better position to say, but we were saying that, possibly before March, this end of the financial year, financial bids might come. And then, subsequently, there will be some process to do it in
so
the very next
by
year.
March, we could still hope for the bids to come in as far as IDBI Bank is concerned.
It depends if the transaction advisor is able to really, I mean, if the bidders are ready to do that, they are ongoing. So, but that's on track.
That's on track, and that is the hope. But what is the appetite, sir, as far as privatization is concerned now? And there was a list that had been identified, that had been put down. Where do things stand on that front?
I said that disinvestment has two legs. One is that, minority stake sale, another is the, outright privatization. If you really see the minority stake sale, they have been going on steadily. You have, OFS in Cochin shipyard, you had earlier in this. In Hindustan Zinc, there was some dilution. And this goes on. And it goes in a calibrated manner, as I said.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there were, listings. You had NTPC Green, which came, and the full thing, and it's now a very major company.
Yeah.
And at the time also, we had announced that many more green companies will come downstream of those, some of those brown companies.
Right.
So that
can we
part,
expect more
Irida was listed earlier. So
Right.
I think disinvestment is going on in a calibrated manner.
More listings expected in 2025, Mr. Chawla and Mr. Pandey?
No, I mean, obviously, if there are candidates, why not?
Okay, why not? On the larger issue as far as the dividends are concerned, between the RBI, between PSBs as well as financial institutions, 2.56 lakh crore rupees, I think that is what the government is put down in terms of the number cumulatively as far as the dividends are concerned. How much are you hoping for the RBI to deliver? They've given you a bonanza the last time around as well.
No, I will not hazard a guess. These are numbers. See, point is on the receipt numbers, which are other than tax. See, when it is a tax numbers and other numbers are slightly different. In tax numbers, you have a legislation backing you.
Yeah.
You know the taxes will come. It will depend upon how the economy pans out. In case of other numbers, there is a lot of things which happens is subject to profitability, subject to this. So there are certain numbers, and we hope that as soon as these things are declared, you will come to know. But in CPSCs, he will be able to clarify you on dividends.
What is the expectation, Mr. Chawla?
So this year we will not only meet but slightly exceed the target, and next year we have a slightly more ambitious target, and we will achieve that as well.
Will achieve that. A quick question. There is no provision that's been made as far as the LPG under recoveries are concerned to oil marketing companies. Why is that the case? Because that was clearly the demand that was put on the table as well.
Well, I think they will work out, because the oil thing is, going up and down and depends upon the market. And they will definitely, work it out, in what manner.
So the OMCs will have to work it out?
I mean, OMC and the government normally work it. Normally, OMC work it out initially because, they have a certain way of...
But you haven't provided anything for them in the budget.
No, but whenever there is a need and something, it is additionally provided. In terms of fertilizer also, sometimes, the prices move differently and then additional thing has been provided.
So the cushion that you've got on the expenditure side, that is what has given you the ability to be able to do the personal income tax cut?
Well, if you really see the personal income tax, I mean, if you look at our numbers, then, we have got about 20% average growth rate last few years in personal income tax. Buoyancy has been 2+. And if you really look at the numbers this year, that what we have projected, buoyancy is now projected as 1.4.